Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Genius Game Recap, Episode 5, our favorite show about loyalty and honor. I'm here with, of course, my brother, my co-host, Cory.
Oh, I've always thought of you as a. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Good one. So, you know what? You know how, like, on an album, there's often, like, the 3 or 4 big hits. Then there's the deep cuts that you learn to appreciate over time.
Yep.
I feel like this season is all deep cuts.
Yes,
Over time.
Yeah.
Well,
I was gonna. Oh, sorry.
Let me introduce you. First of all, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a Survivor legend, a man that me and Cory were watching play Survivor when we got home from soccer practice. The one and only.
Is that a power move? You're really trying to like age me up here. When we were drinking
Fishbach.
our juice boxes, this guy was
the teacher Cha to our.
Such an honor to be here. Such a disappointment of a show, but an honor to be here. I was so excited. I had like my hot take of like, here's why this show is not working and it works so well in the Korean version. And then I was like listening to your former podcasts, and Cory, I think it was Cory, because I was listening on like 2.0 speed, and I'm pretty sure it was Cory. It was like, you stole my thunder. Like you were like, this needs the reality celebrity level of contestant. I feel like that is where this show has gone wrong. Like I loved the Korean genius so much. And I thought it was because I loved, like, obviously like Sangmin is like the greatest reality show contestant of all time. So that's like sort of an unfair comparison. But like, I thought it was like partially because of these like crazy games and like, oh, the great strategy. I didn't realize how much it was like the ridiculous antics of reality, basically like reality stars, right? Like they're all presenters, so they're like reality star level, right? People, and
there was no one who cared about making it to the next round.
Right,
Everyone
exactly.
in the Korean genius cared about winning the game, winning whatever main match was presented,
because they knew like their job was being just like famous. And it's like the Traitors season 1 sucked because that didn't suck. Obviously, like watching Suri put on a clinic was very exciting, but like half the cast was normal people, and they just like weren't bringing the heat. And then they're like, we need like more housewives, like people, and now like the Traitors is so fun to watch. And I do feel like that is the flaw of this. Like if they had, and not that like obviously the reality contestants need to come from somewhere. Not every show can be just reality contestants, because there needs to be like a feeding ground. But like this
Amanfi's the kind of guy.
Yeah,
I can't sing Amanfi's praises enough. Every game Amanfi was playing like to win the game, to betray people.
No, you guys, you overhype Amanfi so much. Like the game that he literally threw because he didn't want to like piss off Benjamin. He's like, well, I know the answer, but like God forbid that I.
But you know what? He thought about it. He thought about it.
Exactly.
That's the most that we've gotten in this entire.
And even the zombie game, where he kind of had this half-hearted strategy of like, first he started betraying people, and he's like, you know what? Now I feel bad about it. I'm just going to tell you. Like he was like closer to having a strategy, but I do feel like
you know, sad, Zach.
Yeah.
I think so far in this 3.5 minute podcast, Steven has said more words than Allison all season.
But I don't have her gravitas. I don't have her stare.
Yeah, exactly. I've never, you could feel it through the screen. All right. Well, we've already gotten so much into it. Fishbach, before we just dive into all the glorious strategy of this episode, I just personally, as a fan, I'm curious to know, like, you obviously covered The Genius season 1 and season 2 with Rob. Did you keep up with the show afterwards? Did you ever go and rewatch them? Like, what was your history with The Genius after that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been actually like saving 3 and 4 because just and this the hope that someday we might podcast about it again. At this point, it looks pretty unlikely. But
well, I will say that Rob did say that if our feed gets 10,000 podcast subscribers, that him and you will do seasons 3 and 4.
Wow, I would be delighted. I mean, I just think like the time commitment now of what, because like the time of watching these episodes, if you want to podcast about it intelligently, which like PS, I'm resigned to not to do today. If you want to podcast about it intelligently, like you gotta like really commit to like thinking about these games in the way that Dwight did when you had him on. He was like, here's how I would play this game, and he like did play the game. Like that takes a lot of time. So I've like not watched 3 and 4 like I've always wanted to. I did watch The Devil's Plan, which was delightful. And I think has a lot of what this show is missing. In addition to just the reality stars, I feel like the meta game, like not the meta game, but like the game on top of the game with like the pieces fitting together. Like I feel like this game needs something like that. like you and Zach and I were I'm just like going here. I'm sorry. I'm like,
yeah, no,
we're fatigued. I didn't sleep last night, so I'm like manic. I really apologize. I feel like I should let you guys drive a little bit.
No. Yes, we were texting about how one of the best things that we've had in the Genius games is these like kind of meta games that we've seen where it's like the cards have a trick to them in Open Pass, or like in God's Judgment, how you could split the dice apart, and like it's constantly been like an amazing moment in the Genius, and it's just something that we haven't gotten to see at all here in this game that's dominated by alliances and loyalty. And I've been kind of hopeful throughout the whole show. We're now past the halfway point, so I'm getting less hopeful. And I think the Genius also historically, the earlier episodes are better than the later episodes because the earlier episodes have more room for movement, whereas the later episodes are a lot more of just like, like just individuals playing these games. So we'll see. And one more thing I want to shout out is obviously Fishbach. You have your website in there. I know that the pre-orders for your new book Escape are out. Very exciting. I've already put mine in.
Oh, thank you.
I highly encourage everyone else to do the same.
Yeah, so Escape is about like super boring reality TV contestants playing boring games without any personality. So if you love the Genius, this is the book for you. No, hopefully it's like the opposite of the Genius, in as much as, there's more drama and excitement and humor and joy in it. But it is a book about former reality contestants going back on reality TV while they're kind of encountering producers. And I did try to like channel obviously all of my experience and thoughts and just like the feeling of being on reality TV, like some of those like little moments that you don't often see. Even people talk about like what it feels like to be in like the tent before a challenge. Maybe that sounds really boring. Maybe that does sound like, what does it feel like to be in a tent before a challenge? What a boring thing. That's not really what the book is about, but I try to like capture like the feeling of being on the shows. But StephenFishbach.com, you can pre-order it. As I've said in many places, like pre-orders are extremely important. I've learned like more than almost like any other kind of order. So if you someday will buy this book, now is the time to do it. And even if you won't someday buy this book, you should anyway at my website.
Mm-hmm. Can I pitch a character where if you do a sequel, okay, one of the contestants should have their brother go on to a different show afterwards and have him like completely eclipse all of their success. There's kind of like some stakes in there, but also bring a horde of psycho haters to that person who did nothing wrong.
That's great, because I feel like there's just like, that deep fraternal rivalry. One brother is so just clearly eclipsing the other one. The other one like wallowing in the muck even more than they previously did. There's something very rich there.
Yeah.
This is, that meme in the bus where like on the left is like heaven, Candyland, on the right is like doom. It's like we either go down this path of talking about me and apparently what I did wrong, or we talk about Safari Race. And neither path, I'd rather just like stop the bus here. You know what's sad about this episode specifically?
Yeah.
I confess to all Genius Game fans, to any cast members watching, I watched segments of this episode on 1.5 times speed. Now, that should be a problem. Number one, you should miss out on the fun character moments. Number two, you should get lost in the strategy. Neither of those things happened. I think this is a very 1.5x capable episode.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to talk about it. What do you think, Zach?
Yeah. So we obviously enter the Genius House, episode 1. This is where in the Korean show we have like the really fun banter between the contestants. Don't really have banter this season. It's just not a part of the show. The big thing that we saw here was that Charlotte tries to connect with Ken instantly. And it's like, hey, Ken, are you going to try to start playing a social game? Which, by the way, I just got to say, like, very condescending way to try to work with someone.
Yeah, exactly. Your social game sucks. Do you want to make friends? Yeah.
So are you going to start, like, talking to people? Like,
and he's kind of like, but he sort of like admits it. He's like, yeah, I guess I should. Like, he's not like, what do you mean? How dare you? He's like, yeah, maybe.
Right.
I feel like is the perfect example of, because Ken, I think we were all as Clock Tower fans. Are you a Clock Tower fan, Cory?
Yeah, I played a good amount.
Are excited to see him. He's so chaotic when he plays Clock Tower. He brings so much like verve and like fun, like off the wall strategy. So like, I think that's what we were hoping for from Ken. But again, like he's going into this house, like a big pot of money is at stake. You know, he's never been on TV. These cameras aren't in his face. And you can see him just like kind of like shrivel up and like play this like passive game. I mean, here he opened up a little bit. That's just much more like about like sort of like tunneling into the end. I even feel like Ken's hair is like the metonymy for Ken. Like I feel like on the clock tower, he's like his hair's all over the place and it's spiky. And here it's kind of like he just got his like haircut, you know, before his like his prom pick or something, you know.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna continue to love everything that Ken does outside of the Genius after this show. None of that's gonna change. I think he's hysterical on LinkedIn and all that. He's proven himself to be very capable in these games. And I think this episode was like his shining accomplishment of like what Ken can do as a game player. As a TV personality, he basically gave us the most boring episode possible. And
I do think I think Ken number 2. I feel like Ken's return is going to be epic.
Right, yeah, for the Genius game season.
The Genius 2. Game All-Stars. South Korea versus the world.
Genius, yeah. No, I think that the biggest issue that I've had throughout this whole show has been that it's felt like every single game from episode 1, 2, 3, maybe not 4, but then definitely 5, a strategy has been put together within the first 5 minutes of the episode, and that has been the strategy that won. And I don't know whose failure that is, whether that's just unluck, whether that's the contestants not playing hard enough, whether that's the producers not editing the show correctly. Because on the Genius, like the South Korean one, games like Election Game, for example, season 1, episode 2, right? You had a pretty straightforward game, but they just showed the entire game from the perspective of the losers, making us think that they were going to be the winners and then flipping it on its head at the last moment. That kind of stuff works. And that's how the Genius UK or the Genius South Korea has been able to make these boring episodes exciting. This one, when it was halfway through the episode and I was like, oh my God, Ken's strategy is actually just going to win it again, I was really distraught. Did you feel the same, Cory?
Yeah, honestly, that's one part of it that's the problem. And I think part of that problem is like the losing team knows about the winning team strategy and feels like they can't do anything. My bigger problem is this is our 5th episode podcasting. I don't know if we've talked about like the main match winner a single time outside of Benjamin in that word scramble game. Like Bedalia winning here, India winning last. It feels like such a side plot to the actual episode, which on the Genius, South Korea, it's all about who's winning the main match, who's losing the main match, who's going to death match. It feels like we are literally just trying to figure out who that second death match person is every episode.
That's a great call. And it's because they don't care about winning. Like, because they're playing this, like, let me just like make the best friends and get to the end in the least, obtrusive way that I possibly can. So they just like choose a winner out of the gate. Like, obviously Bedalia was through no agency of his own chosen to win this game. I mean, Indy last is it Indy or India?
She goes by both.
A little bit of both.
Okay. India last game, it didn't feel like, I mean, she like got there through some maneuvering, but like to your point, like all of the actual drama was about like who the death match was going to be. And like, it just seems like nobody's really trying hard to win. And maybe that's correct strategy for like the game. Like, you just need to not be eliminated, right? If your goal is to get to the end, but obviously it's bad TV for this type of game, especially like for Survivor. Like, there's something to that strategy because there's so much more going on around you. But this game, like for this, the Genius, like all it is the games.
Right. Wait, it's like if it was the immunity challenge was all of Survivor.
Right. And then some people are like, I just need to not be the last. Like that's boring.
Here's my problem, right? I would feel literally none of these emotions if they were playing for $500,000 or $1 million. Because at the end of the day, screw making good TV. I gotta win this money. This is life-changing stuff. I think right now they're about making as much money as like Zach from Survivor, like maybe like in and around that ballpark. So it's kind of like,
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right, Ken, like I understand this might be the optimal strategy, but like he does LinkedIn comedy. I'm sure he can make that kind of money somewhere else.
Well, what about this as another thing? Can anyone here say who has the most garnets right now in the game?
That's a really good point. And they actually do a really bad job of showing off.
I could guess. I have no clue because they're not relevant.
Yeah.
I think it's
and they don't make
probably
like
just because the death matches and the winning the main match.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, no, it can't be Ken.
No, because he's I haven't. Well, yeah, Ben wanted. I mean, maybe Ben from that big win in the main match 3. I mean, is that possible?
Allison's won 2 death matches, maybe.
They're just the Garnets are like such a key part of the Genius. I mean, the first episode of the Genius, we see Sang-min making like the most insane move of all time.
Yes.
Basically to earn an extra Garnet for himself, right? Or
I don't even know. He
Jinho's
steals
Garnet.
someone else's Garnet and then gives it, and then like negotiates with them to give it back to them. So he doesn't even like take it. He ends up like giving them back their Garnet, but like making it seem like he's paying them off.
Yeah, that's not a part of this show, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that does seem like, again, like it's just like the superstructure to that to the show of like, what are they playing for? What are they trying to do? You know, like who's ahead, who's not ahead. There's no like vibe of that other than like, is Benjamin on the in or is Benjamin on the outs now? You know, in this episode, people are mad at Benjamin. You know, and that's kind of like what the drama is.
I know.
Well,
Cory, do you want to explain Safari Race for us?
No. But I will. So the main match is called Safari Race. Genius fans might know this as Horror Race, but Safari Race. Players will choose 2 of 6 animal tokens. They get to select them. The remaining 4 will be tossed into the communal token box. Each round, players draw 4 tokens from that communal box and place them on either the 1, 2, or 3 movement spaces. We have this like racetrack set up with like 15 or so spaces. And you have to advance to the end. Whichever animal has a plurality in each space will move that number of spaces. So if in that 3-space moving square, you got 3 lions, 2 crocodiles, and 1 flamingo, the lions will move 3 spaces. You can abstain from choosing chips or choosing tokens your turn. That'll shift you to the back of the order the following round, which is incredibly important. And finally, the race continues until one animal reaches the finish line, at which case the game freezes, and the second and third most advanced animals will take that second and third spot on the podium. Backing the first place animal gets you 3 points, second is 2, third is 1. If both your animals are on the podium, you get an extra point. Kind of a weird rule to me. Basically, the game boils down to a simple philosophy of you want to pick tokens of animals that will get to the end first, but by picking tokens, you lessen the amount of those tokens in the box to then pick out and actually have them move. So it's a bit of a, mind screw up. Zach, is there any rule stuff that you think I missed?
No, you didn't miss any rule stuff, and you nailed it. The key here is that the more people who you have supporting a given animal, theoretically, that's the more people who have put that animal into the token, the harder it is for that animal to actually progress. I think the key that we need to like focus in on here, and the thing that like really makes this game fun, is that tiebreaker rule of if 2 animals are tied at the same, it goes on to the next one, because that really allows for theoretically some fun stuff to happen. Fishbach, from you've never seen this game before, so when you first heard it, did any like strategies, like just early strategies, emerge for you? Any ways that you would have approached this game if you were one of the players?
Well, so I mean, in general, it did seem like having a majority group working together obviously is beneficial in almost all of these games in a way that is like quite detrimental to the games.
Right.
I did think I was like mistakenly thought there might be something to India being the only one with the flamingo, because it would over index on the flamingos that were out there, and like that I thought maybe that would lead to like more flamingo movement. Obviously that proved not to be the case. Cory, you're like the #1 flamingo stand. You want to like speak to that? Like, what is there something there and it just didn't work out for her? Or is there nothing there?
I think there might be something there if Charlotte and Benjamin immediately agree that we're supporting Flamingo and you're going to give one of us the token. If all 3 of them decided we're just Flamingo people, there's a route there. The problem is you had these 2 alliances that we'll talk about, and one of them was playing a lot more self-interested than the other.
Right.
If you have a lot of alliance members playing not self-interestedly, they will just let India win with the Flamingo, and then one of them will be protected, and whoever's not protected, well, I guess that's, comes with the property. That's part of the job. Whereas the other team was like, okay, we're going to support Bedalia, which leaves 2 of us vulnerable. It'll work out.
That's okay. We don't care.
Right,
so the way the alliances break down is Ken basically, this is Ken's game, more or less. He chooses, and you can see when you're watching it, he does specifically go like, Allison, Bex, you want to follow me? Bedalia, want to follow me? Takes those 4 into the room and immediately sets that alliance. You then have Charlotte and India form their own little twosome in one of the rooms, and Ben is just running back and forth like a chicken with his head cut off. Steven?
Oh, you saw me take breath. I was just having trouble breathing.
Okay.
No, but I actually did. So what the Bedalia, the Ken picking Bedalia, like I'd always thought of like Bedalia as one of Benjamin's minions. Did they have a falling out? Was there just like, some, because even in the last, I mean,
Episode, yeah.
yeah, I mean, in episode 3, I mean, I think Benjamin gave Bedalia the token of life. Like Bedalia was like part of his crew there. Wasn't he part of his circle of trust in episode 2 too? I mean, he was part of his group in episode 1. Was he part of his group in episode 1? Well, anyway, where did this, like, why was Bedalia on Ken's team here?
Yeah, I think that this is another huge thing that I have to criticize this show for, unfortunately, is we have this game that is so based on trust and loyalty and alliances, and yet the alliances are impossible to track and the trust makes no sense. It's like, imagine if in Survivor 48 we had, like, no sign of why Joe and Eva were actually working together, right? And just every single episode we're like, well, why don't they turn on each other? It's like, are there things that bond them? Sure, but like,
Zach, it's not that. Yeah. It's if next episode they're suddenly not working together and they don't mention having worked together in the past. Like, that's what's so disorienting about the Genius game. It's like one of the first questions I had in one of our exit press is like, so India was on this side. Now she's on this side. Why? They're like, well, at the start of the game, it just kind of shook out that way.
Yeah.
And it really feels like...
Or another one is Ken. Like, we can track back, maybe Ken doesn't want to work with Benjamin because Ken was the one who was left out in episode 3. He was the one who was targeted. That would have been a great motivation for Ken to now lead the charge against Benjamin here. It's never mentioned. We have to put those pieces together ourselves.
Yeah. It was like these, like, I mean, like, so much of also what made the South Korean Genius fun was some of those relationships. Like, I mean, the Sangman, when he was like the Sunbae Hubei thing with who was it? Sungyu. Yeah. It's just like, that was such a fun dynamic. Yeah. And like, again, like these games are like they can be quite boring. So, but like having these sort of interpersonal bonds and rivalries kind of played up is like what makes it exciting. And of course, like Gora Appa, like pulling people in and being like a big bore, like was just like such like an enjoyable thing, like playing to their idiosyncrasies as people. I almost feel like they don't have enough of that too. Like everyone's like, okay, nice, way to go, good game. Like they're all kind of polite. Maybe it's a British thing. Like we need kind of like, just even apart from the fact that they're not former reality contestants, they still could have big personalities. It doesn't like they could also have just cast people who have like more obvious character traits,
or a single funny person.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have a comedian
who's funny on the show. I want someone who's funny on the show.
Yeah, it's a huge difference between the two shows. Like the tone of this one, they're really leaning into like the heady strategy. The problem is the strategy is not there in these games.
Yeah.
But the South Korean Genius would always be able to fall back on the characters, the humor of it all. Legitimately, like the Genius is half comedy, half reality competition show. Here, they've got David Tennant making jokes, and they do flash towards our competitors to make sure that we know that the competitors think it's funny. But like David Tennant, and I think it's a script problem. His delivery's fine. I'm not a David Tennant hater, but I did write down in my notes, quote, David Tennant needs better jokes.
I agree with you though. He's doing very well for the, I mean, obviously, and you guys have spoken about this before in previous podcasts, but like the whole thing with him, like obviously just like reading lines in the studio, 6 weeks before the show ever taped, and reading their names once and then like them like cutting it in. Yeah, it was terrible. But like he's giving a lot of sizzle to what we've got here.
Let's talk about I was gonna say, let's just talk about the start of the game. There's so much to get through, so much nuance. First of all, classic Genius game. They give them 10 minutes to decide their animals.
Right, the most important decision in the whole game.
Yeah, but so I was curious, when Ben first tries to join Indy and Charlotte, they shut him out because they say no, 2 is ideal here. And so he runs to Ken shuts him out, and then kind of like it looks like Charlotte and Indy accept him back as like almost out of pity. Why did they think 2 is ideal there? Like what is it about 2? Like I don't get why that would be better than more.
So I think it's mostly coming down to just the basis of the game of like, if we have too many people on our team, we're going to have too many overlapping animals, too few tokens in the box. Honestly, my perspective is this is a game you can kind of play solo in the middle of two groups, right? Like if I think Benjamin would have been much better off instead of working with Charlotte and India, just picking two animals, not telling anyone what animals you pick, and just trying to get 4th place or 5th place or whatever the case is. Like a duo almost feels like the most useless to me because you kind of get the worst of both worlds.
Right. That's a good point. Like you're being targeted as someone to eliminate. So your animals, and it's easier to figure out what animals you have. Was that just bad luck that there was so little overlap between the two groups' animals? Like the fact that, you had Indy, Charlotte, and Ben on one animal, Indy was on the other animal. There's a little bit of overlap between the two groups, but like not as much as I would have expected, just given kind of somewhat random animal choice.
I don't know if it's necessarily bad luck because I think Ken actually planned for this. I think that was part of the core reason to do like this 4 animal strategy and leave 2 out was the hope, hey, if they choose an animal that we didn't pick, that's an easy one for all of us to tank.
Right.
The flaw with Ken's strategy, which could have came into play if these were more self-interested players, is you have like Allison with the crocodile and the elephant, you have Bex with the lion and zebra, 0 overlap between the two. No real reason for them to work together other than like true trust and like, helping all of them at the same time. But when only one of them is going to get the token of life, where this game really could have turned and what Benjamin's optimal strategy would have been if anyone would have been able to, like anyone would have gone for it, is to prop up the ones who shared his animals.
Right.
So he has the zebra. He could then be like, hey, Bex, don't you want to win this game? Hey, Ken, don't you want to win this game? We can all work together and like secretly try to push the zebra over the lion, over the crocodile or whatever. That's where this could work. And that's where this game's supposed to be really fun. But it was clear from the outset that nobody in that 4 was going to go for this.
Yeah, that's another. I mean, like the backroom deal that like upends everything. Like that's sort of what is, and like you saw Benjamin like gesturing at that when he pulled, Bedalia over, we pulled Bex over, and at first he was kind of giving them the hard sell, like, don't you like, what do you like? Why do you think they're gonna, favor you? And then he's like, just don't pick me. Then he just like resorts to begging. But yeah, I did feel like it feels like he's pushing for it, to like play a genius style game, but like nobody else seems to be.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm so like desperate to criticize Bedalia, to criticize Bex. They got their tokens, right? So like, and Steve, you talked about all these games. It seems like the strategy is get your majority alliance, steamroll the game. These games don't work for majority alliances at all. Like
Allison was in the majority alliance. She could have gone home.
Ken and Allison raised their hand and said, yes, I am down for a 50-50 shot of going to the deathmatch.
Yeah.
And with that assumption, the 4-person majority is unbeatable. Yeah. It's just you'd hope that like Allison and Ken, and I think it's for different reasons. Ken thinks he won't be picked for the deathmatch because he seems like a formidable competitor. Allison has definitely proven herself as formidable in deathmatches, but I think she more so is just a bit like more stoic and maybe less likely to be like, hey, please give me the token. So in that sense, the majority does work, but like that's not game design's fault.
Right. Yeah,
like,
there's something
game
about
does not work for a 4-person group.
It's something about the meta that where the contestants are not being cutthroat enough, and it's just become the meta of this season. Like, I mean, it didn't have to be that way.
Well, and I think that also we have to give credit where it's due, which is that as much as it was kind of like frustrating to see this group of 4 dominate so much, they did completely outplay the group of 3. This is not a survivor vote with no idols where 4 beats 3 all the time.
Right.
Like there were absolutely opportunities for the 3 to come together and like get some wins in there and really like scrap through it. And we saw like time and again the minority group making mistake after mistake after mistake, and the majority group just playing completely optimally.
Why does Ben sniff his token at the start? Can you explain that to me? Did you guys notice that? That was very confusing.
He gets it, Steven. Because in the Genius, it's not unrealistic that the elephant would smell distinct, and that's how you're able to intentionally pick certain tokens by smelling them. Like I saw that and I was like, oh, if we just had 10 Bens in the game. But alas,
you think that's what he was? He was like looking for tactile or like something different, but like a smell would be very, I guess that's probably what it's like. Well, why not?
Imagine if like it's like one of those like scratch and sniff. So he scratches it. So then imagine if he like reaches his hand in there and he's like scratching one, then he's like sniffing his finger, and then like he's like, I found the secret to the tokens. So in the Korean version, I think an important thing to note is that there was a small trick to these tokens, was that some of them were different sizes. So in that sense, you actually could, when you were reaching into the thing, it was like small differences in sizes, you could tell to some degree which tokens were at least not like, like if I grabbed one of the smaller tokens, I could be 100% sure that's not going to be one of the larger ones, even if I don't know exactly what animal it is. I don't know if that would have helped this game, honestly, because it probably would have made it even easier for the Majority Alliance.
Exactly. Yeah.
But would have loved some
So-
kind of trick here.
We get to this other team. Ultimately, Ben is accepted because I think maybe Charlotte and India realize their duo doesn't make that much sense. And also Ben is so forceful, like he's not going to just be left by himself. And India lets out this quote, and I'm curious your thoughts, Steven. She picks flamingo and giraffe because those are the animals she is most like. Steven, of these 6 animals, which 2 do you think you are most like?
Well, definitely giraffe. Like that's an easy one. I'm sort of like this skinny, long neck,
Melman kind of
limbed
vibes.
creature.
Yeah.
I don't think flamingo. I mean, maybe you could say flamingo for the same reasons, but I feel like there's an elegance to flamingos that I don't have. Something very odd about a zebra. Maybe that's. I mean, I love crocodiles. I feel kinship for crocodiles. I don't really have a reason why. But I just like I feel it. So maybe I would choose crocodile and giraffe. What about you guys?
I was gonna say you're double giraffe, Steven.
Double giraffe.
Yeah. I think for me, I've got like the bite of a lion but the speed of a zebra, I think would be appropriate.
Okay.
What about you, Zach?
I think I'd probably go zebra and giraffe. I feel like that represents
checks
me the
out.
most. Also zebra, Zach.
Yeah. How do you guys feel? We're 3 Americans here. We just said the word zebra. How do you feel about Benjamin saying zebra?
Yeah, that felt a little bit appropriating, right?
Yeah.
Like like Benjamin, you're an American. Okay. I
Do
get
you think
that
he was coached by the producer? Like, we don't get zebras here. We only understand zebras.
Zebra.
Yeah.
Maybe he was trying to blend in. I don't know. All I know is that if I saw Drew, because Drew studied at Oxford, right?
Mm-hmm.
Drew Basile.
Yeah.
And if I saw him on Survivor just going like oh, zebra, color.
No.
I wouldn't have liked that.
Color.
Yeah.
Okay, so Zach, I have a question for you. Real strategy question. So you're in that minority group. You're in that group of 3. Let's say you're in a 2 or 3, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
What is the optimal strategy at that point? You're playing against this majority alliance. Like, how do you make this work?
I think that the best way to do it, I actually think 3 is a golden number in this because it is a way to 3 is the number where you can make sure that everyone is completely bonded. So you can kind of do a variation of Ken's strategy where let's say it's the 3 of us, right? I choose zebra and giraffe. Cory chooses giraffe and flamingo. Steven chooses flamingo and zebra. Right there, we're all perfectly linked. We're all perfectly bonded, and we kind of win or lose together.
Right.
We're all rooting for the same things. The issue with Ken's 4 that could have bit him in the ass is you have people who have completely different animals who have completely different win conditions. Could have paid off. It didn't. Another strategy that you could do for 2 genuinely is you can choose the exact same 2. If you're going to do a twosome, I think you should just choose the same 2 numbers and ride or die together, because then either you win together or you both get dead last together, right?
Oh, that's good. And then that's
if
really
you get
good.
dead last, if you're a astute player, you can be secretly pushing and deal making to make sure that when it gets down to that final 2, you're not the one that gets chosen.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. It's a smart strategy.
Sorry, continue.
I was just gonna say, if you have anything to say, go on, because I'm about to move the subject. But it's a smart strategy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna also add, just another thing I'm annoyed about this show is the final 7 is such a place where we see people turn on the front runners, right? We saw that in season 1 of The Genius with Jinho, obviously. We saw in season 2 of The Genius as well. We see it in season 3 in probably the biggest way. So it's this is a moment where people make this move against the alpha players. We saw it happen here, but there was just no effect to it.
Yeah. I mean, there was just there was sort of a vibe of Benjamin is, we don't want to deal with him anymore.
But that should have been the story of the episode. This should have been the Kingslayer episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you had that. You had him like scrambling in the shadows. You know, you had him sort of like, you know, desperately like making pleas and then like failing to fail. You know, and I thought there was real drama there. You know, first he's kind of, you know, when he first goes to Bedalia and he's like, I'm gonna pick you for the death match if you know you don't work with me. And Bedalia's like, okay, like do your thing. And then he's like later, like, please, just like don't, you know, there was a real fall from grace here for Benjamin. But you're right, it wasn't like enough in the episode.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Bedalia for a second because this guy, Charlotte goes to Bedalia, says, "What are your animals?" And Bedalia says, "These are my animals," and immediately tells her both of them. And it's just like, I don't think there was like a thought of maybe I should. It was like, nah. I mean, she asked, I know the answer. This is a very binary.
Yeah.
Like, okay, sure. I have I have this and this, which was frustrating. But you know, Bedalia is gonna Bedalia, and I think that is a testament to this episode where, you know, ultimately, how does Bedalia win? I don't know. I mean, people just agree. Like it's let's talk about something. So, Steven, there's this allegation levied towards Ken all episode.
Yeah.
Ken, how dare you? You gathered up all the naive, sweet little players and are manipulating them for your nefarious purposes. And Ken took a lot of offense to this. Do you think that is a fair assessment of what went down?
Yeah, I mean, Ken was like, "No, we're all playing together. Everyone here can win. We're all great together." Like, I thought actually I sort of liked that moment. He seemed very sincere when he said that.
Yeah.
It did feel like it was him trying to find people he trusted, you know, and there's probably something to being trustworthy in a game like this and being a little bit naive. But I feel like, I mean, clearly those are the most naive players in the game. I mean, you guys have loved India and how strategic she's been through the game. I mean, Charlotte certainly, you know, has been strategic through, and obviously Ben too. Bedalia, Beck's probably on the lower end of the strategy, and Allison is there too. So I mean, like, just he did pick the three least strategic players, but I do believe that he did it because he found them to be the most trustworthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you think about when Benjamin essentially had to make the same decision, right, in Zombie Game, and Benjamin did the exact same thing, right? Who did he choose?
Yeah.
Well, he chose India, who's obviously like his close ally through the whole game. Then he chooses Bex, and he chose Basha at the time, who, while she was still in the game, was like probably like the most kind of loyalty based, like naive. It's funny they keep using this word naive as like, I think, like this nice way to say bad.
Yeah.
And I don't think these are like bad players. I actually think they're playing too well, unfortunately, in a way that we want them to be playing messier and worse. And like,
I don't know if I agree with that.
Who do you think is like an actively bad player, Corey?
How many people do we have left?
Six
as of, yeah.
Pretty like 4 of them. I think here's the problem. Like, okay, this is a big picture question. We're bouncing around, but like the play-by-play of this main match is not really that important. If you're to give Ken a grade for this episode, you know, like A to F scale, it's like, for me, I'll give him like a B- or like a C+, because he had this like genius plan that worked to full effect, accomplished his goal. But his goal was so dumb. It was like to protect Bedalia and Bex, two members of his alliance, which just upped the probability of him getting picked for the death match. I understand, like, maybe he has reasons to believe he won't be picked, but like, I feel like Ken's strategy is very easy if you forfeit any like self-interest.
Well, but the start of the episode was Charlotte saying to Ken, you know, you need friends in this game because of that previous death match where it was just like, who likes you? So I mean, I think there's like a long-term gain here for Ken, right? Like, I'm going to need people to ride with me. So like, let me pick people and build trust and build that relationship and then not put my name. So I actually think there is like a strategic, you know, component to him being willing to sort of take the risk of the death match because it builds up his credibility in the game.
I also think that, Corey, you were, I would give Ken a much higher rating for this episode. I would give him like a B+, A- personally. And I think that's because I think you're really underrating like his threat in the death match. I do think that Ken is someone that is people are very scared of taking to the death match, especially when he knows he's going to be sitting there next to Allison, who just hasn't been playing the game nearly to the level of others. I think you can feel fairly safe if you are Ken. That's also why I think this strategy, unfortunately, like, as boring as it was to just see people give the win to one of their alliance members yet again, it made sense because Bedalia was going to be safe, Bex was going to be safe, Ken was going to be safe, is safe in general from that. And that just leaves Allison, who unfortunately isn't the kind of player who is going to make big swings, you know, and I can't expect that of her.
Do you believe, Benjamin, that he would have picked Ken? He says at the end, I would have. Sorry, I know that this is really
Absolutely.
out of chronological. Yeah, I don't think so either.
No.
Easy to
Yeah.
say when you're not the target. Not so easy to say when it's, you know, you're in the hot seat.
Do you think Benjamin's running around Zach and being like, "Hey, I've seen all these death matches before. I know the strategy." Because he
Yes,
should be.
I do.
Like, I would genuinely never take Benjamin to the death match because it's just not a fair fight. Like, if he knew he knows the strategy for black and white, he would have beaten everyone in this death match by pure knowledge.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
like,
I also I think that we saw during the death match Benjamin specifically say, "Oh, I've never seen it with this many swings before," and I assumed that was him kind of talking about the previous rounds of black and white that he had watched and how it's this is kind of a peculiar one. But yeah, I agree with that. Can we talk about the minorities' mistakes real quick?
sure,
At this point,
they were
because
bad.
there were several. The first one was obviously Charlotte is the first person to go. She does not abstain, which immediately is throwing away like the most powerful thing in the game. Essentially, the minority group just lost a turn when she does that because the last person, it should have been 4-3, which is not like that insurmountable of odds, especially with like optimal play. But by giving that first round up, she is just throwing that away. Do you like blame her for that, or do you think it's like it's the first round, she didn't realize?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
blame
blame
her.
her.
It was, I mean, Allison caught on pretty quickly in round 2. Like, I think whenever the Genius game lists the rules of the main match and gives you something like this, like, they're pointing it out for you. Like, you got to go and think about why would this rule exist? And frankly, there's no mystery here. This isn't breaking the dice apart or figuring out the upside down garnets on the cards. Like, this is like intentional game design that they tell you up front.
Yeah. Okay. And then the second big mistake was Benjamin not realizing that he had a way to advance the drafts, which would have helped the whole team. Fishbach, do you criticize Benjamin for that one, or
Well, yeah, I mean, definitely, like, that's the thing. I mean, that was, you know, what you're looking for, right? Like, you're looking for those moments to create the tie and force your thing ahead. Like, that's where the game is won and lost, is by creating those ties, right? Of the animals that seem to be pulling ahead. So that was. I mean, obviously, it's stressful, it's time, you know, but like that's the game they're playing. Like that is where
Oh my God.
you win or lose.
Was I the only one freaking out when they kept getting so close to just placing these tokens willy-nilly? Like, Allison's like, what about here? Almost throws it. And they're like, no. Oh, here. No. And like, we were so close to them just misplacing them. And then sometimes they would place them without talking to the rest. And Ken's like, no, I think that's fine. Okay, we're good. Like, because really, this is the way the Majority Alliance was strategizing. It wasn't the 4 of them meeting in the bar and then going. It was just like, Ken, what do we do?
Yeah.
What now, Ken? And Ken has a good mind for these games, so we got it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. We then see basically it becomes the writing's on the wall. The majority group's just going to let Bedalia win this one. And which good on Bedalia. Let me just say, like, we got to give him props. He was the one who ended up taking this. And it's now just politicking to try to get Bedalia's favor. I don't understand why the majority group were all just okay with giving it to Bex. I guess that's just what really locked in this pairing. But we then see Benjamin specifically go to Bedalia and say, hey, so chill with you winning, and I'll help you win. What if you just let us choose Bex and eliminate her?
Well, I think it makes sense on both levels. I mean, it's because of those two things, right? Bex has been shown to be the one who's willing to like move between groups. It sounds like they all think of her as a weaker player. And so they think like if we're a group of 3 and that's your group of 4, although like who knows what it'll be next week, like if we eliminate their weaker player, like we suddenly that their majority advantage is gone for the next game. So like, you know, you go for that Bex character who you think is likeliest to be, beatable in the death match. And then, but promising her the token of life negates that threat or that possibility, right? And if Bex is kind of like wishy-washy, promising the token of life makes sure she stays locked in. So, you know, like she has jumped around a little bit between the different groups. So like that's the one you want to like really reassure the most.
I feel like you've played with so many different survivors, probably like, 30 something, right? I'm doing the math, 40 something.
Yeah. 30,
Is there anyone that you've played with that Bex reminds you of specifically?
Oh, that's fun. Like the sort of like weak. Well, I don't want to say weaker play. I mean, there was a little bit of that with like. I mean, I do think there is that thing in Survivor where there's the person on the bottom of one group who the other group kind of like poaches, and it's like, you're our buddy now. I mean, we had that in Token Cheens with Aaron Lobdell. But I'm also thinking of it like in the moment that really came to mind for me here was Cochran in South Pacific, where Cochran ends up flipping, at that crucial vote. They had like, and I believe the Savaya Alliance like had like 2 idols or something, or maybe they had an extra idol. And like, if they like Ozzy had immunity and they had an idol, and like they were basically saying like, Cochran, you got to stand strong. You're going to go to, we're all going to go to Rocks. Like, why is Cochran, who has no loyalty to these people, going to Rocks for them? If they had given him immunity, then he's safe, and he was probably willing to ride with that group. That always seemed like a huge mistake to me. And it did feel like a kind of similar thing with Bex here. Like, if I'm safe, I'm happy to stick with you.
That's such a great comparison. Yeah, it's the player that's at the bottom of the majority who simultaneously has the least power, but also requires the most babysitting, essentially, the most maintenance from the alliance, which actually then should, and in Bex's case, does give her a lot of power, because unlike the alliance you were talking about in 23, these people are willing to kind of bow down to Bex's demands of like giving her the immunity there.
Yeah, they do well because of it.
I don't actually think it's too big of a mystery. Like, we're in this 4-person alliance. Ken is very, I would say, like, not forceful in the way he like conducts himself strategically. Like, he's very active, but he's not going to put his name out there and say, I want the token. Allison is obviously not that player either. But Dahlia, that was his MO for the first 5 episodes. Like, he just wants the token no matter what, and he's always trying to strike a deal. Bex is the exact same way, and something that is not in the episodes at all to this point, but we talked about it a little bit with Amonfi in our exit interview. Apparently, Ken and Bex have a relationship. We're like, they're relatively tight in some capacity, and maybe that's why Ken's plan of like, okay, I could probably handle myself in the deathmatch, won't be picked, we'll get Bex protected. This all actually seems to make a little bit of sense. But the one person, like, really I've got nothing nice to say in terms of their main match performance is Allison. Like, I don't know what you were hoping for. Like, this felt like always the path we were going to go down.
Right. And she just like doesn't want to have to like think for herself, basically. Like, obviously she's the one from that group who's being picked if Vidalia and Bex are safe. And so, the fact that I mean, I guess we'll get to the death match in a minute, but yeah, I mean, it did seem like just like extremely suboptimal play by her. And she didn't seem like pressed about it. It's like, okay, I'm going to the death match.
No,
I'm going to win the death match. All right. There was no like real angst about it, one way or the other.
I think that's exactly right. I think the only time in the Genius that I can think of something like this happening is parts of season 3. We saw some players that were kind of okay with just riding with the majority no matter what happened. And obviously that was a more entertaining version of that. But I mean, I honestly can't blame Allison, because I think that it's like, you're expecting like a duck to climb a tree. Like, she's just not. And I don't mean that as like an insulting way to her. Like, I just don't think that she is the kind of person who is going to play this kind of betrayal game.
Yeah.
Which is fine. We don't need everyone to be like a cutthroat assassin type. It's just when you have a player like that who is now making it deep into the game, what ends up happening is they end up kind of taking a lot of the hits of the majority alliance, which kind of stifles actual gameplay of seeing the big targets go out.
So, Steven, I have a question. Does this episode get meaningfully better for you in terms of a viewing experience if they have real animals?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, no cages, right? We're just thinking animals in a field kind of thing.
Yeah, well, no, they could be on the racetrack, right? Hopefully they're well trained and like they enjoy racing. If we're actually doing the safari race, is it zebra, lion, and who are top 3?
I mean, we're assuming there's no ethical issues with how these animals have gotten here, how they're being treated. These are happy animals. They've chosen to emigrate to Britain.
It's been their dream to race.
Exactly.
You got Omer back there. Omer's watching them and making sure that it's.
Oh, that's actually those poor animals. I don't know. Yeah. We
had to put the zebra down.
The giraffes are fast, though. I mean, those limbs are not just for gangling. They will fucking sprint. So you think the zebra beats the giraffe in the race?
I think so.
I mean, really? Wasn't there that movie back in the day of the zebra who races in the horse race and he's very quick?
Stripes, yeah.
Stripes.
Yeah, but that's a horse race. That's not a giraffe race.
You think giraffe beats a horse in a race?
I mean, those legs. Come on, like
That's a question for ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, let's talk about the how this kind of
Yeah.
works out. It's between India and Benjamin for the deathmatch candidate, and it's really Badalia's choice. India starts crying, which she felt iced out of the game. Benjamin is trying to work Badalia in the same way. Badalia ultimately goes with India for the deathmatch candidate. Steven, just top of your head, is that the right call? What do you think?
I do think, I mean, Bedalia and Benjamin have had a relationship. Like Benjamin
Yeah.
gave him, as Benjamin mentions, like a token of life, like two, it isn't like an episode a day, 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So like, I do feel like there is some loyalty there. I also think it's the right move for the same reason that it was the right move for the weaker groups, to the lower group, the smaller group to target Bex. Like you want to weaken the opposing group's numbers. And if India is one of those numbers, if we're actually believing that this, these groups are going to like maintain, then it's reasonable to like go for India there. And also,
I think it's 100% I get why he did it, but I think it's 100% the wrong move because it's like, this is Benjamin. This is the biggest threat in the game. This is the guy who knows these games, especially like these death matches. There are some death matches that could come up that Benjamin, if he gets, he will literally just win because they are broken games that you can just like have a solution to.
But this is one of them, right?
This is not one of them. This is
Okay.
one where he definitely would have gone in with the advantage because he would have known the strategy. But there's always the chance for chaos with this one. You need to take any opportunity you can to get Benjamin out, and especially for Bedalia, which I get. He gave him the token of life. There is some loyalty there, and I'm not like hating on Bedalia for not making this move, but like it is so rare in the Genius to have the biggest threat like served up to you on a platter with no risk of you going home in retribution.
Right.
You choose Benjamin, he cannot choose you here, and you are now like fingers crossed.
I think it was totally the right call sending India. First of all, India and Charlotte are an item. Like they're clearly like working together very closely, and you just have a duo like that. Benjamin was excluded from that duo. Like it took a while for Benjamin to even get into that mix. And now I look going into this next episode, Bedalia is like the most safe person there. I feel like he has this relationship with Benjamin while also obviously being on this other side. Like I think he's now in this sweet spot. And if your criticism, Zach, is like, okay, what's your plan? Get to the final and lose to Benjamin. I'm like, well, shit, if I'm Bedalia, my plan is not to run the table and win the rest of the main matches and dominate it's just not going to happen. So like get to the end. Maybe something will work out. Maybe you'll luck into a win. Maybe Benjamin will just lose a death match at some point. I think it's just the right call for a player like Bedalia.
Yeah, specifically for him because he wants to maintain those good relationships moving forward. Do you think Ken would have picked Benjamin there?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think we saw the last time when Ken had the choice, he chose who he perceived to be the easiest threat. I think Ken is not a big risk taker in these games, at least from what we've seen. I think that we were always going to see someone going for one of the bottom players. Maybe it doesn't seem like people were too worried about India's deathmatch prowess, even though she has been a very capable main match person. I do want to ask India potentially choosing Benjamin. What did you think about that?
That was, I mean, I thought though that Charlotte's argument that he cracks under pressure was a good one. Like we have seen him make mistakes and get really flustered, whereas Allison is cool as a cucumber here. So I mean, like I would probably still choose Allison, but I do think the point that like Benjamin is going to like get really worked up and make bad like mistakes, and it's a game of mistakes, right? Especially something like this,
right?
Is not a bad one.
Well, so it reminds me a lot of something that pops up a ton in Big Brother. To give a Survivor example, almost like Jake and Katura, who are both on the bottom dealing with Reba, and then they have to kind of campaign against each other. And this kind of turns their relationship sour, even though they're only campaigning against each other because they're both on the bottom and are trying to survive.
Right.
Benjamin and India were forced into a position where one of them was going down. They both had to campaign against the other, make arguments for the other to go into the death match. And I think it's very understandable to like feel bitter about that. Sometimes you just got to zoom out and be like, okay, I'm India. I take out Benjamin in this death match. Then what? It's me and Charlotte against this 4-person brigade. Like, honestly, I don't hate their odds depending on the game. But like, I get like the emotional feeling behind it, but I think it would have been ridiculous to take not only the biggest threat, but one of your allies into the death match.
I did love I thought it was amazing from Charlotte though, to try to be like poking that and instigating that, being like, I actually love you taking Benjamin. Because for Charlotte, she probably does realize that Benjamin is the biggest threat here.
Yeah, and that's clearly her game, is to just like be on the margins, sort of like nudging things her direction, which has worked out like decently well for her so far.
She's great, yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
All right, let's get into this death match now.
I got the rules, and I've never had a shorter list of rules. Here's what I got. You place numbered tiles against other numbered tiles, and the higher number wins. All odd numbers are white, and even numbers are black.
Mm-hmm.
When you play the numbers against each other, the higher number wins, and the dealer reveals who wins, but not what tiles were used. And the only other kind of bit of meta I said is, when we've seen this game played in the past, the conventional strategy, the most successful strategy, is assuming your opponent is going to be a little bit nervous at the start and maybe err on the side of caution, which gives you a great opportunity to kind of jump them and just play a lot of your big numbers and take a really significant lead.
And that's what sort of was Ken was advocating, right? Like just like go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, basically.
Yep.
It seems like too, like the idea of like if you get to play first, playing 4 is a really good idea, because like you just like immediately can start to like piece your opponent's numbers into groups.
So this is one of those.
You look skeptical, Corey.
Yeah, Corey, you do look skeptical.
Here's the thing: this is a meta game, right? Like, Steven, I think you're going to play a 4 because that's the right move. So I'm going to play a 5. That's a devastating start for you.
Well, right.
But at the same time, now you know that I know you're going to play a 4. So you might play a 6 because that's also going to be an even number. So my 5 loses. And then I think, well, it's really one of those, like, when does the line of logic stop?
Yeah.
So like if you have 2 players who know the game, who know the strategy, I really think it's pretty arbitrary unless someone just screws up.
Right.
Well, here's where I'll disagree with you, Corey, because I agree in the beginning of the game that is the case. But I do think with some clever tracking, you can actually get an advantage here. I wrote out like a specific example, and it entirely depends on what tiles are played. But let's say that round 1, I play a 3 and you play a 1, for example. Okay. I then found out I won that round. Right now, I know exactly what you played.
Yep.
So I know that you played your 1 here. What that then means is I know that any time from now on you play a white tile, that my 0, my 1, and my 2 will all lose, because the 1 is gone. All the white tiles are 3 and higher. Right there, I can then make some decisions. I see a white tile come out. I can be like, you know what? This is a good place for me to throw my 0 away, because I know the 1 is gone. I know that at the very least, I'm losing to your 3, and hopefully I'm losing to your 5 or your 7. Like that's just one round of this, right? And you can do that a lot more, like round by round by round.
That's I hear that, like, obviously, like there's a meta element, but even just like for my own personal information, like I would want, like, if you play a high number or a low number, you literally have 0 and you win with a high number. Like, you have 0 clue, so you have no, like, I don't know. I wouldn't like feel like my feet were stable under me. Like, okay, I do a 4 and I maybe do something obvious, and I'm prone to being, but at least like I'm starting to piece together a picture of what's going on, and that to me I feel like would be really important.
I think it makes a ton of sense. I think we've seen this game played a lot of times. I think throughout season 2 of the Genius, 3 times. I think it popped up in season 4 as well.
Yep.
Where, like, human nature is human nature. People play their low numbers, medium numbers first. Like, that just happens every time someone plays this game and isn't super familiar with the strategy. So, like, if you just go 6, 7, 8 as your first 3 against a new player, I think you start 3-0 up most of the time, which is.
But don't you think, like, they would go, like, if once you won 1, they might be like, oh shoot, I need to, like, get my 1 in there. I'm going 8 this time.
Well, I guess the way I would do it is I start with like a 7. Someone plays, you have no idea what they play, right? Because you're just going to win. Then they feel the pressure to win. That's when you play your 8.
Yeah.
And, like, if it's a wash, it's a wash. If you win, all of a sudden they start panicking. Maybe then you drop your 0,
I guess my biggest frustration with this, and I guess one of my frustrations with the show as a whole, in a very negative episode, I'm realizing we still love you, Genius. We still love the Genius. Is that we have never once in this show gotten like an explanation of like, oh, actually, this was the strategy I was using. And I would have loved if Allison was like, oh, what I was actually doing here was this, this, and this. Even if the strategy was questionable, would have been awesome. But what we got was just, it did feel like a game of war, essentially. where they were just putting random tiles out, and Allison just came out on top because she chose the numbers that happened to win 5 versus 4. So that was like a bummer.
Yeah, and there were a few just like missteps, it did feel like, from India, where, I mean, out of the gate, we had, her talking strategy with Benjamin. He says, okay, you can assume her first child is a 4, so you should either do a 5 or a 3. And then five obviously seems to make why would you choose the 3 there? And like maybe she thought like, okay, well, if I'm gonna play a 3, I might as well play a 1. Like why lose by 1 when I could lose by 3? And everyone was really shocked by that. Like, wow, she really lost that. But I guess losing to a 5 or 4 is kind of a bummer on your first try. And then I did see it feel like kind of spiraled from there.
If any Genius Game production is watching this, just play Black and White 2 next time. Black and White 2 is an amazing game. It's easier to follow. There's so much more strategy to it. This one I think is a little bit more. So Black and White 2, Steven, just give you the quick rules. It's a similar game. You're playing numbers to try to beat other numbers, but you have a pool of 100 points. And you get to play them as you please. You write down numbers and it subtracts from your total. And then every 20 points that you lose, there's a light that goes off to indicate you're below 80, you're below 60. So you have some information about how much the other person's spending. But the meta becomes, okay, let me use 19 points so that light stays on. So I might still have all my and it's just gives you way, way more options and more information, as opposed to what you're doing, Steven, is the only way to get any concrete information is by playing that 4.
Yeah.
At the start.
Yeah. Do we have any final thoughts on India as a player in the Genius Game?
You guys really liked her. I was convinced by your guys' take about it.
She was my favorite.
What I liked, what I really liked about India was I found that she was always someone who was wanting to play the games. I really appreciated during the Codebreakers game, where she was one of the people who was fighting against Benjamin, who was like, I want to actually play this game. I liked in episode 4 how she was the one who took charge, how she was the one who ended up gathering the tiles, how she was part of the zombie game. It felt like she was always someone who, even if she was playing by this alliance-based strategy, was always doing what she needed to make sure that she was coming out on top of that. And in a game that's where everyone is playing the same way, I'm definitely going to be especially appreciative to the people who are at least putting in that extra effort to look out for themselves within the structure of the alliance.
I agree. I was a big India fan. She was my first pick in the draft. I think she did very well in general. This episode, again, there's a lot of missteps, but I don't think it was any catastrophic downfall for her. I think the death match, as we talked about, is kind of a nebulous one where it's things happen. I think in general, she seems to me, on the entirety of the cast, the most well-rounded player. Again, we don't know if that deathmatch capability is there. It's a very, very small sample size that probably will never grow. Very sad. But I was a huge fan of her presence on the season. I was just, in general, a fan. And I think compared to a lot of the people left in the game, I think she had real winning potential.
It feels like the people who were the sort of the middle tier players who were maybe didn't feel like India was a middle tier player, who did want to be self-interested, but also kind of felt pulled by the social dynamics, are the ones who are going right. I feel that about India. I did feel that way about Basha. I feel that way about Amanfi. I know, Zach, you worship the guy, but for me, he was not he wasn't one of these top dog players like we have with Ben or Ken. Obviously Scott was gone first, so that's sort of puts a lie to that. But the last few have been these sort of people who they're not cowardly enough to just huddle, and they're not people who are the big threats.
Yeah, we're really getting to a final of do's and don'ts in terms of the people who are really hardcore playing and really hardcore not. Yeah. Fishbach, we have a award that we always give out each episode. It's a brand new concept. It's called the Sangi.
I love that.
What we do is we're not praising whoever played the best every episode. Because I feel like that's almost always the person who won the episode, although maybe this one's a little different. It's the player who played the hardest, who made the biggest moves, who was the most entertaining. I'm open to not giving one out this week. If you guys, unless there's someone that you feel partial to.
The most entertaining. Ben was trying, I feel like he was out there. He was like working it. He wasn't doing a great job, but he was working it.
I will also say that like I love having Benjamin on the bottom because now like he's the underdog that we can root for. He
Right.
is the biggest player. He is the biggest character. He's been so dominant throughout that you've kind of been forced to root against him. But now that he's on the bottom, like I'm all in on the Benjamin train.
Yeah, I'm giving it to no one. I think Ken played. I don't even know if Ken played the hardest, but he was the voice of the side that won, and he was literally like the words he said during the match. Like he was the one giving out the orders. So I think there's an argument for giving it to Ken. There's an argument for giving it to Allison because at a certain point, I'm starting to love this character of just sit around in the main match and crush everyone in the death match. It reminds me a little bit of Jung Hyun from season 2 of The Genius, where it's like, I don't know
He
how
was
she
the
does
politician, Fishbach.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, we're like all of a sudden this like kind of dopey character, which Allison's not. That's more Jung Hyun. Allison's just a little bit more quiet.
Yeah.
Has won like 3 death matches in a row and is one stage away from like the final. Like it seems like it's coming out of nowhere, but I do agree with you, Zach. I think this is a wash for me.
You know what? It just hit me, by the way. That's like one of the things that like this show is so missing is the Jung Hyun. Like every episode, they would just have like the doofy music while he's
should
just
be
sitting
Bedalia.
alone. And
Yeah.
everyone's like, no one wants to play with me again.
They're missing just like that editorial, in addition to like all the other things they're missing, like the little like pop-up video stuff, you know. I mean, it's so corny and so goofy, but like it did add to it, you know, like the tears, people, you know, like the little emojis everywhere. I felt like it kind of was like a good counterbalance to like the intensity of the games. Do you think there's any I mean, I still love Ken so much just because of like, you know, he's so fun on the No Rolls Barred videos, but I would vote to give him anything just because I believe in him. Do you think this like season suffers too, as long as this is all about all the bad things they've done, just from having a smaller cast? Like it's a little bit smaller than a normal Genius cast, and I feel like that just means there's fewer people to you know.
Well, like let's look at this episode for example. This episode, horror race in the Genius happened at final 12 in season 4, so it was much harder to track who had what tile. You had different factions that were warring against each other instead of just like 2 core alliances. This time, because it was 7, it was very easy to track who had what. Like I said, I think that generally the bigger number Genius games are the more exciting ones, and the final 4, final 3 games often are a little bit snoozier. I think that's a really good point. I 100% agree.
I think they're doing a good job too of like speeding up this end game a little bit. Like we're not going to have a final 6, 5, 4, and 3 episode. Like just based on the number of episodes left and the number of people left, like they're going to have to speed up, which I think is the South Korean Genius has this problem. By the final 2 episodes, 3 episodes, it kind of falls off a cliff with like very, very few exceptions. So like I generally agree. But Zach, do you want to get into our death match?
So before we end every episode, we do a death match. We are not going to be playing black and white because it seems complicated.
Boring.
But we have a very special quiz for the 3 of us to play. Wow. Sam, would you be willing to pull it up? In honor of Safari Race, we will be playing Name That Animal.
Wow.
So what we're going to do
will not
is
go first.
There are 15 questions. We could do me first, then Cory, then Fishbach.
Okay.
It's just point system. We're just going to go 1 through 15 real quick. I know that answer. That is a fennec fox.
Is that why you chose yourself first? Because
wait, Steven,
I did it because I'm at the top.
I'll go first. I'll go first.
I'm first.
It is the fennec fox.
Actually, let me be first here, guys. I believe this is a fennec fox.
So Zach gets the first point when,
Sure.
And that is correct. Thank you.
Okay. This is a red panda. Absolutely.
It's an easy one.
You can tell by its color.
I knew those two. This is gonna be a hard one. Okay, this is. Well, see, is this an iguana or a guillemot? I believe. Oh gosh, see this. I knew those two like hands down. It's not a salamander. It's not a gecko.
Steven, if you want to work together, I'm down.
No,
I've won 0 of these so far.
I believe this is an iguana. Yeah, it's an iguana. Yeah.
Whoa. This is
no, I said iguana. We said it at the same time. That was Oh, this is
what the fuck is that?
See, how are you getting all these easy ones?
Okay, all right. No,
honestly, Zach, if this was a token, you'd pick this one.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know what this is, but I know what it's not. It's not an aardvark. It's not a Tasmanian devil. It's not a tapir. So it's got to be a marsupial mole.
It was an aardvark. It was an
That's an
aardvark.
aardvark?
Mhm.
All right, we're in the driver's seat, Steven.
Yeah! Alliance. Oh, this is a tricky
Okay.
one, though.
I think albatross, a booby, cactus finch, or a glaucous gull. My gut tells me booby because I think they have like blue feet, right?
I feel booby too. I mean, sorry, Zach. I feel booby too, but I could be a glaucous gull. Those sort of looks like a gull.
Yeah,
you guys
I wish there was a glaucous booby. That'd be fun.
You guys spend the whole episode talking about how you hate when people work in alliances and you hate how they're not playing for themselves to win. And what do?
Yeah.
I don't know, Zach. You couldn't identify an aardvark. This feels like a massive you problem. I'm gonna
At some
say
point, you just have to cut the
answer.
chaff, you know?
Lock it in. Booby.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I knew that one.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well, this is obviously is it a hedgehog or an echidna? It's a hedgehog, right?
I believe it's a hedgehog.
Yeah, hedgehog.
Echidnas are red.
Yeah.
Oh!
Sabotage!
He sabotaged you. He knew that one.
Yeah.
That's why you can't trust Cory.
Yeah.
That's a puffin.
All right. Zach, you want to start working together?
No.
We need to get Cory down to our level, having missed one. I was,
Okay.
oh man, yeah.
Okay, so it's not a pelican. It's not a puffin. Zach's from California. My gut, I think condors in my head are much more menacing. Like it's kind of like a vulture. So I'm gonna go with an albatross.
Shit. It's looking bad. Ooh.
Oh wait. The answer is not there.
I don't even. Yeah, is that not just a kangaroo?
Clearly, it's not.
Okay, it's not a koala. That's much as clear. I don't know what a qual is, which maybe it is a qual. I want to say wallaby.
Sounds right to me.
It's some Aussie.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Oh, come on.
Come on. That's Nemo.
Production.
It's a sunfish.
That's a clownfish.
That is too easy. What is going on here?
Ooh.
Okay, and I'm gonna say this slowly. A macaque is a monkey, so it's not that. A tanuki. So you know Tanuki Mario, Zach, Steven?
Mm-hmm.
America doesn't know the name, so she calls him Furry Mario whenever we're racing against him in Mario Kart. Red squirrel seems unlikely. I think this has to be a tanuki.
If that's a red squirrel, someone has got a bad pick.
Yeah, okay. Oh, come on. I mean,
what is that? What? Oh, this one's me. Oh, good. Otter. Okay. Phew. I was like, how's that getting these? But then, in fact, that was from
I swear there's like a curve.
Right.
Oh, come on, dude.
Okay, yeah, this is a chinchilla. It all comes down
to a pet. This is it.
Down to
oh, come on. That's outrageous. That's outrageous.
My God,
oh, come on.
Capybara.
My previous questions were so tough.
You sabotage me.
It's definitely a capybara, Cory. It's definitely a capybara.
I know it's a capybara. Shut up. It's a capybara.
Oh, God.
I'm on the board.
All right, it's a narwhal.
Cory gets a win. You
I'm
hate to see bad people succeed.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the fact that we got a 13 out of 15 on a game for children, that right there
that's
is
not for children. That was hard. Let's be real. I know you're trying to put us down for the sake of the podcast. That was hard, and I'm proud of us.
Yeah.
That was the collective minds of Yale, Vanderbilt, and WashU put together.
WashU. Let me ask one final question, Steven, before we... Well, it's in the mix.
It's right there.
Steven, we're at the final 6. Okay. Right now, winner pick. Who do you got?
Do we think there's a winner's edit happening here? Like, I honestly kind of think Ben is going to take it. Like, I'm rooting for Ken so hard. Charlotte gets a lot of screen time. Maybe I'll say, like, I thought that Charlotte got so much time this episode that she had to be either in the death match or the main match winner or something. Maybe it's Charlotte. What do you guys think?
I'm going to say my gut is Charlotte as well. The one thing that has me suspicious is the eagerness to which Benjamin is covering the show and commenting on our podcast and releasing his own. Like, that is certainly like winner behavior, but it also might be Ben behavior. I think Charlotte is the right pick right now. I think that's who I'd go with. But I will say I am fully on the Allison train. She's the last member of my team. we're getting to the stage where death matches are going to be even more important, that'd be sick.
I think that Benjamin, I don't necessarily read all that much in because of how he's so excited, because he's been doing so well. Like, regardless of how he performs from here on out, I think that like he would be just as excited about this show, period.
Yeah.
I think I really do see a final three at this point of I think Benjamin, Charlotte, and I could almost see Beck sneaking through there.
Yeah.
I mean, she is just
so you think Ken is like just like an also ran here? I'm just like such a just rooting for him so hard.
I think that Ken hasn't gotten the screen time to justify a deep run here. And I think that
they
if
would have
he
found
was...
moments in those first 2 episodes to give to Ken.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? One other comparison I want to make real quick before we wrap up. This reminds me, I told this Cory, it reminds me a lot of Australian Survivor season 1.
Like the good season 1 or the bad season 1? I mean, like the one that
like the one that you and Rob covered, like the Know It Alls.
Yeah.
In the sense that like the game is set up the way it's supposed to be set up. It's still a little, people don't have their feet under them in terms of like playing the game hard. And if Genius were to get a season 2, I really think we would see that fixed. I don't know if it's going to get a season 2. I would love for it to. I still have a lot of hope for this show in an episode that we've been very negative. I just think that this season didn't play out in particularly exciting ways often.
I feel like the negativity comes from a place of love. Like Jeff, when I was in Cambodia, like Jeff comes and visits you beforehand, and he's like, "Why do you criticize the show so much?" It's because I love the show. It's like all the things I talk about are like the ways that like I wish it were better, and like all also I talk about it for like every fucking week. Like obviously I care about it, and I feel like that's the way I feel about the Genius too. I'm like enthusiastic. I love it. Even when I haven't enjoyed watching this, I've enjoyed watching it because it's still like a really good show at its core, and I believe in you, Genius.
Yeah, fighting.
There's also like there's that funny dynamic of like X person on Survivor, since they've been on the show, hasn't even considered thinking about the show since they've been on. Whereas like my job is to talk about it 24/7. Like I totally agree with you there. But before we head out, Steven, where can we find you? And obviously, is StevenFishbach.com? Is that where we're pre-ordering?
StevenFishbach.com. Yes. Yeah. But and on Twitter at Steven Fishbach. But
you should do like Fishbach, real quick. You should do like a promotion like Fair Play does, where every person who pre-orders your book, you give them a personal phone call.
I get more like what is Fair Play promoting such that he's like
his t-shirts.
Wow, how many t-shirt orders is he getting? Like 4? Like what on earth?
I don't know if he still does that, but
okay.
He used to.
Yeah.
So
I mean, honestly,
the alternative.
the
alternative, of course, Steven. I forgot what I was going to say. The point is, Zach, what is coming up on the Genius feed?
So obviously the show is now once a week. We will have our exit interview with India coming up either tomorrow or Friday, not 100% sure, but that will be coming out. And then we've got episode 6 with the incredible, should I just announce it? I should just announce it.
Do it.
Incredible Christian Hubicki.
Oh, wow.
Is joining us.
It's going to be a much more serious conversation than we've had. He's going to actually get into the mechanics of the game.
Join us for our 3-hour breakdown of the alliances and honor of the Genius Season 1 cast. Cory, do you have anything to plug or promote?
No, I'm just pissed I can't remember that previous thought. So,
okay.
I'll be here. I'll be here the next podcast that comes out. See you there.
All right. Thank
you guys so much for having me. This was such a pleasure. Like, so fun to chat with you guys, both of you, and especially Cory.
Yeah,
of course.
Allies.
That's what people often say. All right. I'll see you all. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Until next time, goodbye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.